I'm Paul Dottino. He's Matt Citak. And we are very glad to be with you for the next hour at 201-939-4513.
You weren't showing up for the first minute there. You were talking.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, Pearson's.
No.
Would you like me to reread the sponsor?
Yeah, sure.
I think they could hear us. I just don't think they could see us. But now we're good.
Okay. Right here. We are in the Giants podcast studio presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. And this is Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I believe we have now satisfied all of the requirements.
Yes.
Both on audio and on video. And yes, it is a very glorious and sunny day in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Folks, simply put, the Giants beat the Buffalo Bills in the preseason opener on Saturday. If you have been living under a rock for the last 2 days, it was a 34-25 win. It was an impressive win. A lot of things went well. A few things certainly have to be cleaned up. There's no doubt about that. Coach Brian Daboll addressed the media yesterday. Didn't have a whole lot to really add during Sunday's media briefing. The players and the coach were off in terms of media responsibilities today, so there are no updates to give you since that time. They'll be back at practice tomorrow down at Florham Park with a dual practice session against the New York Jets. But before we get to that, because I know, Matt, we're both looking forward to that. We'll be down there. We will have Big Blue Kickoff Live right here, 2 p.m. live tomorrow with a complete recap of the first set of practices against the Jets. They'll be coming up here on Wednesday. We'll have another recap on Wednesday's Big Blue Kickoff Live, also at 2 o'clock. So the next 2 days, we're going to be really concentrating on all the details. But Matt, before we get to that, and we are very much excited about the practices with the Jets. We are, really. It's going to be cool. We do need to somewhat recap and review, and you folks out there may want to talk about the Giants win over the Buffalo Bills, one in which I think the obvious headline is that Jackson Dart and Abdul Carter, in the playing reps that they received, checked all the boxes that you could hope that they would check. Not that it necessarily translates into a Hall of Fame career tomorrow. We don't want to get carried away. But first impression, it was good.
Yeah, so did you ever watch The Simpsons?
I don't.
Have you ever seen at least
yes,
the intro?
I have seen them.
So there's the part of the intro where Bart Simpson, the son, is writing over and over on the chalkboard, like the same line over and over again.
Yes. That
was me the last 48 hours with I will not overreact to a preseason game because it's easy to get very, very excited based on what we saw on Saturday. As you mentioned, it wasn't perfect by any means. It was not perfect, but it's hard not to feel encouraged, at least by what we saw. And, Brian Daboll spoke about it after the game. He basically said the same thing that I just said. It's a preseason game. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. But the way we played, it certainly beats the alternative.
Yes.
And I think that was a great way to look at it. And, a big reason for my encouraging feelings is obviously the rookie class. And it goes beyond just the 2 first-round picks for that matter. We can start there, but it really goes beyond just Jackson Dart and Abdul Carter. But obviously those are the 2 first-round picks. Those are the big-name guys. So we can certainly start there. Abdul Carter. You and I have been talking about it since we saw him take the field for the first time in the spring. He is the real deal. And, in the spring, we were like, all right, well, there's no contact. We got to wait until we see him do it against, linemen that are legitimately trying to stop him.
Right.
And then we saw him when the pads came on at the start of training camp. And we're like, okay, that looks great. But we need to see him do it in a game setting to really, feel it and see it. Well, he did it on Saturday. He was on the field for only 6 snaps. 3 of those 6 snaps were pass rushes. And on all 3 of those pass rush snaps, Pro Football Focus credited him with the pressure. And you can see the clips of those 3. Obviously, he did not come up with a sack, but he got in Mitch Trubisky's face on all 3 of those occasions. I know you don't love the pressure stat overall, but if you, as I'm sure you did, you saw the clips, he was pressuring Trubisky on all 3 of those plays.
I just want to add the most impressive thing about it is that 2 of them were against 3-time Pro Bowler Deion Dawkins.
Yes, that was going to be my next point. He didn't do it against scrubs. He did it 2 of the pressures were on Deion Dawkins, a multiple Pro Bowl tackle. And the other one was Osiris Torrance, who was the Bills' second-round pick in 2023, one of their starting offensive linemen. So he did it against Buffalo starters. There was the one against Deion Dawkins where he just bent. And there are like photos where you can see like his ankle bending in a way that just doesn't look physically possible. Yeah. I don't know how I mean, again, we've been talking for months about his insane bend around the corner.
Do you remember Gumby?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank goodness. Folks, think of Gumby. Really, think of Gumby. I had to watch the replay. When I got home, I went to NFL Plus Premium, which I do subscribe to. I had to watch it 4 times. I'm like, is that an illusion? Look at how he was bent.
Yeah, there's a photo we almost used for the Giants Now article this morning of that play where he is so like close to the ground. Horizontal, just bending around Deion Dawkins.
How
and you
did
can
he
see
not lose
Dawkins
his
like
balance?
trying to push him over, and he just can't do anything about it.
How?
Because he's too athletic, quick, strong. He just gets right by him. Again, this is a 4-time Pro Bowl tackle? 3-time Pro Bowl tackle, and he's just, I don't want to say making him look foolish, but getting by him with ease.
How did he not lose his footing?
I don't know. It was
amazing.
It was very impressive. And again, we have been sort of expecting it. Like anytime that someone has asked me about Abdul Carter for the last few months, I have said, like, look, I'm going into my 7th season here with the Giants. I don't think I've ever felt this confident that a rookie is going to step in and immediately make an impact. I don't think I've ever been more confident about that than Abdul Carter this year. And Saturday was just a little taste. Again, not going to try not to get ahead of ourselves here because it was 6 snaps, 3 pass rushes. But those 3 pass rushes, like it, other than maybe getting a sack, you couldn't have asked for much more from him on those 3 plays.
I agree.
And it was just very encouraging to see. So that's Abdul. Again, I don't think either one of us were ever even remotely concerned that he would be able to produce in the NFL. But it was good to see him do it in his first opportunity in an actual game setting. Then there's Jackson Dart. Which, before we get into Jackson Dart, I just want to say all 4 quarterbacks played well.
Yes.
They all deserve praise. Obviously, Russell Wilson was only in for 1 drive. His numbers might not pop out like the other 3 quarterbacks, but I think if he was left in the game for another drive or 2, his numbers probably would have looked just like the other guys in terms of, a passer rating over 100, a touchdown, 100+ yards. Like, I think if given more of an opportunity, Russ probably would have had a similar day to the other quarterbacks.
The important number for me, and we're going to put aside the 51 pass attempts and no sacks, by the way. We'll put that aside for a moment. Every one of the Giants' 4 quarterbacks led scoring drives.
Yes.
That, to me, was
important.
something that really meant a lot. Tommy DeVito, Jameis Winston, and Jackson Dart all threw touchdown passes.
Yep.
Russell Wilson was in for 1 drive, was practically flawless, and led the Giants to a field goal. So every single quarterback who got in the game moved the ball effectively and put points on the board. That, to me, was significant.
Yes, that was 100% significant. I know we're obviously all the headlines and the buzz is around Jackson Dart, but before we get into Jackson, I just felt like all the quarterbacks deserve some praise because they really did all play well. Obviously, Jameis had that 1 interception that got taken off the board because of a penalty, but
yes,
it's part of the game. Like, get a penalty, you got a free play, throw the ball somewhat down the field. So
that would be one of the things you'd like to see cleaned up because that pass was right down the middle of the field, and Buffalo was very eager to take it away.
Did he know that he had a free play?
I didn't ask him.
If he did, then I don't care if you want to take a shot at a throw that's likely not going to be completed, but take the shot. If he didn't know, and then that's another story. But regardless.
+1 in takeover ratio because the Giants recovered a late fumble, and they did not turn it over thanks to the Buffalo penalty. So +1, if you told Coach Dable, I'll give you a +1 in takeover ratio every week of the regular season, you think he'd take that?
I think he'd take it in a heartbeat.
So do I.
But back to Jackson. I don't think, again, I kind of just said this with Abdul, but I don't think you could have asked for more in a rookie quarterback making his NFL debut than what Jackson Dart showed us on Saturday. I mean, his passing, the accuracy was great. Like, yes, his completion percentage probably came out to a little bit over 60, but he had a couple of drops his receivers dropped the ball, pass catchers dropped the ball on plays that should have been completed that easily would have made that completion percentage look even better. But he just looked comfortable back there. He did not look like a rookie making his NFL debut.
He did not.
He looked like a veteran, that's like the biggest praise you could give a guy. And that, I think, we haven't heard from Mike Kafka since before the game, but going into the game, that was basically the thing he said. Number one, I want to see just Jackson operate the offense, run the offense how it's supposed to be, and just play freely, play your game, keep that same aggressive nature that got you here. Don't stop doing that. And that is exactly what we saw from Jackson Dart. He was aggressive. He was decisive. He was accurate. He ran the ball well. He threw the ball well. He got rid of the ball when he felt pressure coming. I don't think there's much more you could have asked from him in his first game.
I'll sum it up in a simple sentence. He was confident and effective. And those two things check a lot of boxes.
Yep.
The two boxes that I did not like, the one pass that could have been intercepted, it was a low ball. I believe linebacker Joe Andreessen had a shot at it.
Yep.
And, of course, he trapped it against the ground, and it was ruled incomplete. That was a ball that got away from him. Probably the only one that really made you wince. Otherwise, he threw the ball extremely well. So that in itself is a big deal. The other item is he's got to learn to slide and lead with his feet when he gives himself up at the end of a play. We talked to Brian Daboll the day before the game, the television and radio crew, because we get production meetings with the coaching staff. And Coach had told us that Jackson Dart, since Thursday, was all jacked up and couldn't wait to get out there, was ultra confident, ultra energized, wanted to compete, wanted to be aggressive. He said, quite honestly, he's got a defensive player's mentality. He's incredibly competitive and tough in his mind, and that translates into his emotions and what he wants to do on the field. Well, on his 3 runs, he ran as if he was a defensive player because on all 3 of those runs, he absorbed contact. I do think I'd like him to learn a baseball slide at some point quickly so that he doesn't take that kind of punishment. The 19-yard scramble that Brian Daboll mentioned yesterday, he wants to see him be aggressive. He actually liked the play, but he did say, I do want him to learn how to protect himself. Well, in a lot of ways, protecting oneself as a quarterback means sliding feet first and knowing when to give up. That would be the one thing that I was a little concerned about on Saturday because, and Sean O'Hara and I mentioned it in the radio booth, because you can't take too many shots to the head and the shoulders before you wind up getting injured. And he did take some of that on Saturday. He's going to have to learn how to handle that. Otherwise, he checked so many boxes. It was really a great performance, and I'm thrilled that he came out of it okay. I will also add one other item, and that is his pocket presence was really, really good. He felt the pressure. He knew when to take off and where to take off. Now he just has to know how to slide.
Yeah, I mean, to your first point, that one pass, that was his one. Obviously, he got away with it, but that would be the one somewhat big mistake that he made. And he'd be the first to tell you that was not a great throw. But you'll take one bad throw from a rookie making his NFL debut.
19 throws, and he had one bad one?
Yeah.
Come on.
We'll take that,
We'll
especially
take it.
with what we've had at the quarterback position for years.
We'll take it.
We'll take it. In terms of the sliding, I mean, look, we've seen his tape from Ole Miss. I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. But, again, a guy that, as you said, was very jacked up for his very first NFL game, you knew he wasn't going to be sliding. Like,
do you remember Evel Knievel?
Diving for those extra yards.
You remember Evel?
Yeah.
Okay, the daredevil, the aggressiveness, the showmanship, the competitiveness, the desire to make something happen. He's got some evil in him.
Yeah, no, for sure. But that is something that a quarterback learns as he gets through, starts his NFL
has to learn
career.
it.
Like, whenever he gets onto the field, whatever time that is this year, likely later in the year, he's probably going to play the same way that we saw Saturday in terms of not sliding. But all it's going to take is for him to take one big hit that I'm not even going to say injures him, just makes him a little slow to get up for him to realize, like, all right, as big as the guys are in the SEC, it's not quite the same as the NFL, and then he'll start sliding. I don't really have much doubt. Like, you want him to keep that aggressive nature, for sure. Yes. But you definitely do want him to learn how to protect himself so he doesn't take as many hits.
Correct.
If you're a running quarterback, you're going to take some hits.
You watch the game.
Lamar Jackson,
right?
Jayden Daniels, they take some hits. But it's just minimizing the amount of hits you take.
Alone or with people when you watch the game? You watch it alone?
Yes.
Okay. So Sean O'Hara and I were in the booth, and on that 19-yard scramble early, which got him up to midfield, and he took a hit hard on the shoulder and maybe even hit him a bit on the head, the two of us looked at each other and were like, you paused for a second. You held your breath for a second because that's the kind of hit that could put a guy out. So that's why I raised the concern. It's not so much a negative on Jackson. It's more of a learning experience, a teaching experience,
right? Of course. And I don't think either of us, one of us, have doubts that he will learn.
I'm sure
as
he will.
He gets accustomed to the NFL.
I'm sure he will.
He will learn how to protect himself a little more and start sliding a little more. And then the third rookie that definitely deserves to be mentioned, Marcus Bowe. I honestly think, and I know Brian Baldinger agreed because he put out those little Baldy breakdown clips on social media, I thought Marcus Bowe was the most impressive rookie out there on Saturday, to be quite honest. He looked great. He looked like a dominant lineman out there. More important than that, he played the right side and the left side.
Correct.
And then went back to the right side.
Correct.
That is crazy. For the first NFL game for an offensive lineman to do, that is crazy. And he was able to do that and did it so flawlessly and seamlessly, did not miss a beat. He was moving guys. I think he was on the field. I think PFF had him for 35 pass rush snaps, 1 pressure allowed. Only 1. That was so impressive to me. I mean, we've seen him. He's looked athletic and he's looked good in practice. But again, especially with linemen, there's only so much you can get from practice. Like, yeah, those one-on-one matchups between the offensive line, especially with the Giants' defensive line, those are kind of telling. But for a rookie offensive lineman, you really got to see him do it in a game. And the first time Marcus Bowe got a chance, he looked great out there.
We always talk about during training camp, and I emphasize this all the time. I can't stand, and I appreciate it. The coach blows a whistle and says that would have been a sack. I never count those because the offensive linemen have their hands tied. They can't do a darn thing. I've talked to Carmen Brasillo about this, and he's like, I hate when people talk about training camp sacks because my guys can't do anything. And so I adopt that attitude. I take a coach's mentality when I watch these things. Why was what you just said critically important? Because this was the first time we got to see Marcus Bowe actually use a punch, use contact, use his power, use his weight, use his ability to counter a counter, use his feet to get in front of somebody and actually try to push into them and get movement. We got the chance to see Marcus Bowe use the tools in his toolbox for the first time all summer. That's why that was important. Look how it went. It was good. It was real good.
It was real good. And obviously, again, you don't want to go overboard with just one preseason
absolutely
performance.
Not.
But that was an incredibly encouraging start. And if he continues that throughout the next 2 preseason games and even the joint practices that begin tomorrow, if he can continue this strong performance, that's going to have all of us feeling so much better about this offensive line because that's just another talented player that we know, if called upon, is going to get the job done. And it's not going to be, if Andrew Thomas or Jermaine Illuminor were to get hurt in the regular season, it gives you another guy that gives you confidence, can step right in, and the offensive line won't miss too much of a beat. Obviously, if Andrew Thomas is out, line's gonna take a hit. But
yeah,
Marcus Bowe showed us that maybe that hit won't be that big as it has been, at least in previous years.
All right, callers, I know you're on hold. I'm going to read off something very quickly, and this is the capsule of the positives and negatives without going individually into certain players. Real quick, I'm going to rattle this off, and then we're taking your phone calls, and I want to go rapid fire. Positives: nearly 400 total yards of offense and 34 points. 9 for 19 on third down, 47%. 2 for 2 on fourth down, 1,000%. 51 pass attempts, no sacks. 2 for 2 in the red zone, getting 2 touchdowns on 2 opportunities. Holding Buffalo to 1 for 9 on third downs and 1 for 2 on fourth downs. +1 in turnover ratio. The negatives in general, 25 rushes for only 79 yards. 3.2 yards a carry. Jackson Dart was the leading rusher. It's never good when your quarterback is your leading rusher. 3 carries for 24. 10 penalties for 70 yards, including back-to-back offensive penalties on James Hudson on the opening scoring drive. But Russell Wilson was still able to get the team a field goal, which was good. Yep. And then finally, they gave up big play pass completions of 58 and 39 yards, including a 58-yarder right before the end of the first half that gifted the Bills a field goal unnecessarily. That, in a nutshell, is what happened on Saturday. Mostly positives, a few negatives. That's really what we saw. Heck of a way to make a first impression for most of these guys.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add, just because this guy deserves a shout-out after what he did and all the offseason talk that's been surrounding him, but how about Graham Gano?
3 50-plus yard field goals.
People were counting him out, being like, oh, we don't even know if he's going to make the roster. He's too old. Where's his leg strength? Well, guy went 3 for 3 from 50-plus yards.
Yeah, the one that bounced off the right upright was a little scary, but he got it. He got it.
If the refs put their arms up like this at the end, it doesn't matter how it happened.
It's good.
So, I mean, you and I have spoken about it. We've seen him make some kicks in practice, like off on a side field when no one's watching, that had our jaws dropped. Well, based on all just the talk that's been going on around him for months, it was great to see him go out there and just silence everyone and be like, I'm not going anywhere. I've still got plenty of gas left in the tank. I just thought that deserved a quick
Let me throw out one more bouquet. Dante Turbo Miller.
Oh, yeah.
You guys know how much I've been with this guy since day one when he walked onto campus last year. 7 catches on 7 targets for 80 yards. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he converted 4 long first downs during the course of the game. Turbo Miller has really progressed. And he had a 20-yard kickoff return.
Yep.
And I believe he was in, and I don't know if they credit him for an assisted tackle on special teams. He was in on specials, and I thought he was in the fray.
They have him down for a solo tackle.
They gave him a solo on that one. Yeah. Okay, he was definitely in on it. Turbo Miller, it's going to be, especially if he can do something on specials like he showed in 2 ways on Saturday, on coverage and in returns. He's going to make it very hard for them not to keep him as the 4th running back. And that was as good as he could possibly look. And that gives him a real chance to enhance his position and his argument to make the 53.
Yeah, and Coach Dable talked about that after the game, where first of all, he named him the player of the game, which obviously, considering some of the other performances on the offensive side of the ball, that means something that he gave it to Dante Miller. But yeah, Coach mentioned, like, look, obviously we know what the depth chart is at the running back position. Yes, Dante can contribute there and add to the offense as a running back. But Coach pointed out, like, the way that he's going to make the team and make an impact is going to be on special teams.
Got to.
And we got, as you mentioned, we got a little glimpse of it. He had 1 kickoff return, the tackle. Like, if he can prove that he can play in kickoff coverage and also be a productive returner, that will give him a big boost for his chances to make the 53. Because purely as a running back, he's got an uphill battle just based on Tyrone Tracy, Cam Scadaboo, and Devin Singletary. We've spoken about those 3 at length.
Sure.
We don't have to go into that. But if he can prove, Dante, that he can also be a big-time contributor on special teams, in addition to giving you running back depth, maybe giving that sort of change of pace, because he's not like any of the other 3 running backs on the team. Again, we've spoken about his speed. None of the other running backs, as good as they are, have his breakaway speed.
They do not.
If he can prove that he can be a reliable, consistent contributor on special teams, in addition to what he brings as a running back, he will have a good chance at making the 53-man roster.
All right, quickly, our spots before we go to our calls. Giants Huddle podcast, long-form interviews with Giants people and NFL personnel. It's available on all of your podcast platforms and at giants.com/podcasts. Is there anything you posted in the last 2 days that we should know about?
Nothing since before the game. No, it's been all post-game coverage, basically.
Okay, there will be a whole bunch of stuff going up this week. I guarantee you that. Also, the Giants Foundation will host a 5K race and kids run presented by Quest on Sunday, October 26th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative T-shirt after the race. Stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at giants.com/5K. The Giants Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. Giants season ticket memberships for the 2025 campaign are available. Stay connected to the team all year long with exclusive member access. Just go to giants.com/tickets. And Giants TV is the free app. It is available on all of your different platforms: Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. You get all of the original video content by this production staff, as well as game highlights, and there were plenty of them up in Buffalo over the weekend. That takes care of our spots. Now it's time for you guys. Rich in Florida, you are first on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Good afternoon, Godfather and Matt. I got 3 things for you if you got time.
Yeah,
go through them.
Okay, number
Try to
one,
be quick, though. Go ahead.
My conference call guys picked this up last year. You know, we have a conference call during all the games, no matter where we are, Europe, whatever. And we saw it again yesterday, and I went back and looked at the first quarter again this morning. If you look at the Giants' offensive right guard, during shotgun only, it was yesterday or Saturday, it was the same thing with Van Roten and the same thing with Kubas. In the shotgun, he looks over his shoulder at the quarterback, puts his head back, then points. Boom. And then on the next second, there's a snap, and it happened last year. Why is that? Do you have any clue? Discussed that with my boys this morning. I thought maybe he's pointing out the Mike linebacker.
No.
But that's normally the quarterback's job.
The quarterback and the center make the calls. They make the calls that the guards do not in the Giants system. It can be in other systems, depending upon the experience of the players. But with the Giants, the quarterback and the center are making the calls. What they could be doing is confirming that they got it. That's possible.
Gotcha.
That's possible. That could be a confirmation signal.
But why is it only in shotgun, Paul?
Again, I don't know how many plays you looked at. I have not specifically studied this. You sent me a message on it. I'm thinking either it's confirmation of what they were looking for or confirmation of communication, or part of it, and I know I mentioned this to you, like in baseball, they don't call the balk rule specifically. They'll say to a pitcher, he's got certain physical quirks, and they will allow that within the natural movement of what he does. Is it possible that there's a natural movement gray area that they're giving to these guys? I will investigate that for you. I don't have an answer.
Wait. I just want to clarify. I think I'm
Carmen Basillo
not catching it.
It's happened last year too. I mean, we're real very Dottino like. You know that. You know us.
Wait, so Rich, so you're saying that the right guard is looking back at the quarterback, then looking forward, putting his arm out, and then the snap is happening?
Exactly.
He's saying he's saying he's pointing before the snap.
Well, don't we see that with a lot of guys across the league when you're playing in an opposing stadium and it's obviously very loud when the fans screaming? The guard will look back, give the center the head, like the go ahead, like, all right, time to snap now, and then the center snaps the ball. I mean, like we see it when teams are on the road across the NFL.
There are movements that they're going to allow. I was talking about this with who was it? It might have been Howard Cross the other day at practice. And we were discussing how he had watched a game and there was some of that going on. And the best thing we could decide was if you move your core, that's when the referees are definitely going to get you. But if you're doing a little bit of this or that with your hand, usually they're not going to get you because they understand it's a communication issue.
Yeah.
You're not trying to draw somebody.
Exactly. The thing that gets the false start penalties is when you move in a way that could be deceiving to the defender to try to like make them jump off sides. Doing an R motion like that, where it's very clear like the rest of your body's not moving, that's obviously, as Paul just mentioned, a way to communicate to your center in a loud opposing stadium. That's why they're not going to call a false start penalty for something like that.
Rich, I'll talk to Carmen Brasillo about it for you. I don't want to waste any more time on this right now.
Yeah, please do, because I'm sure other people would be interested too. Second point is trade possibilities. Now, I know I don't want to be presumptuous, but I totally concur with your analysis and all the experts. We've been around since '61, so Tommy DeVito's not going to make it through waivers. And like you're just saying, Paul, man, it would be really hard to give up Turbo. I mean, you cannot. It's coach speed. It's a God-given talent. What do you think about trading either Jameis or Tommy D or Motor and getting either a draft pick or some other, like we know we need a quarterback and maybe another defensive tackle? What do you think about that?
Well,
I mean, go ahead.
What I'll say is that the guys upstairs in the front office, if there is a situation where they know a guy is not going to make the roster here, he's not going to make the 53, and they have a pretty strong feeling that if that player gets cut, they're not going to make it through waivers to come back onto the practice squad, you better believe that they will start calling other teams to see if they can get some sort of compensation before just releasing him. I mean, we saw it last year with defensive tackle Jordan Phillips. Giants knew he wasn't making the 53, and they were able to flip him to the Cowboys for a late round pick swap. So it's possible. I mean, I don't think Tommy DeVito is not making it to the practice squad. We already kind of thought that before Saturday's game. Saturday's game was just another step in that direction of him proving he deserves to be on an NFL roster.
He can play.
In terms of trading him, just because it's the quarterback position, I would say I would not want to make any move with the quarterback position until after the third preseason game, because we see guys get hurt all the time. And so if someone were to get hurt, if one of the top three guys were to get hurt, then we would need Tommy DeVito on the 53-man roster for week one. So if we get to, past the Patriots game, everyone at that position is healthy, then, then maybe you start fielding calls if teams are calling you about whether it's him. I don't think they're going to trade Jameis. I think there's a reason why he was signed to a 2-year deal. But I guess you never know if a team comes calling with an offer you never thought was going to be on the table, then maybe you consider it. But at this point, I would be surprised if Jameis gets traded before week one. Tommy's situation, again, because he just seems to be the odd man out given the first three guys on the roster. If a team comes calling at the end of August saying, we want to give you some mid-round pick for Tommy, I feel like you'd have to consider it at that point, because you don't want to just, as you said, cut him and see some other team pick him up for nothing and then him go and be their backup quarterback when you got something.
Real quick, the Patriots game is August 21st. The 53-man roster has to be in on the 26th at 4 o'clock. If you're going to make any deals at all, you're waiting till the last 24 hours. Because you've got practices between the Patriots game and the cutdown.
You have other teams playing on Saturday.
And you have other teams playing as well. So you want to know what the market is, and you want to make sure you don't get guys hurt during those final weeks of days of practice either. And then in the last 24 hours, maybe 36 hours before the cutdown, that's when you're really working the phones to see if you might be able to swing a deal with somebody. I would be very upset if they traded Turbo. I'm just going to let that out there right now.
I think they're going to want to try to find a roster spot for Turbo.
Rich, we got to go.
If he continues playing like how we did.
Have a good day, Rich. We got to get other people in on this call on this game show too. Coach Marvin in Delaware, you're next on the line. Go ahead.
How you doing, Paul, Matt?
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Coach.
I know we got a short time. I got a lot, but I got to shorten it up, I guess.
Please. I want to try to get to more callers if we can. Go ahead.
Right. Don't forget, Evel Knievel, a lot of bones got broken in his body, so I don't want
They did, and I don't want to see Jackson broken.
Jackson got to go down. I was yelling at the TV, get out. He's got to get out.
I think all of us were.
Matt said, wait till he get hit hard. No. Get down. You got to get down. I had a quarterback that happened to him. I told him to get down. He ended up breaking his collarbone because he wouldn't get down. Superstars in the day, Abdul Carter. He's everything you guys said he was, everything I saw when I was at the practice. That doesn't surprise me. He's outstanding. Dart, Good analogy by Dan Orlowski today on him. He did an outstanding job, but there's still things he's got to work on. This is just stage 2 he's in, heading to stage 3. He passed stage 2. He's still got ways to go. I agree with Matt with Marcus Bowe being the outstanding job as a rookie. Oh, that's unbelievable. He went from right to left, back to right, I think, or something like that.
He sure did.
That's unbelievable. So his feet is marvelous, just marvelous. The stars, the guys that in this position, you got to wow me. And the ones that really got my attention was Dante Miller. That's the first time I've seen him in this manner. And the other one is Montel Washington. Whatever he has it. And I think he needs more chances to get on the field because the move he made down that sideline, he went by 3 or 4 guys easily, and he could have scored a touchdown. On the Dante Miller, he had a screen pass. First time in a while I've seen the Giants able to complete 3 or 4 screen passes.
I know.
And they went successfully.
Turbo was good at it.
Right, but he had a chance to get to the sideline. He had 2 blockers. He left his blockers. I would have liked him to stick with them a little longer because he had the sideline. Could have got more yards or took it to the house. The bad side is the second and third unit up front. They just rushed all over them. They didn't do a good job there. The defensive backs didn't play that well at all. I think in college they're not teaching them how to play defensive back. They're teaching them how to just defend the receiver. And my last part is Banks he's got to turn around. I'm seeing it in the practices and I'm seeing it in the game. He can't play that way. He's got to learn to play defensive back. And as I used to tell my backs, what I would do is run them with the receivers and let them run routes so they can understand when the ball is coming and the timing. And that's what he's not getting. And if he turns his head around, he'll be an outstanding defensive back. But we're going to need another corner somewhere if he's playing that way.
Coach, we don't agree very often, but I rewatched Banks' plays in particular. He gave up 1 completion in the game, and it was a crossing route. And to be frank with you, he was playing off coverage, and the receiver came from the left side of the Buffalo's defense, ran across, and Banks was tracking him the whole way. But because he was off coverage, there was room there for the completion. So the completion got made. It was a first down. It's the only pass he gave up the whole day. Now, the other pass that was thrown at him was along the sideline, and he squished the receiver's route close enough to the sideline that only 1 foot came down in bounds and the other foot was out, and it was ruled incomplete. So I don't have a problem with how he played.
Well, I had a problem with that one because that was a one-hand catch, and he never saw the play. He just jumping with the guy that's running the play.
I agree with you that it was a spectacular grab, but he had squeezed him to the sideline enough instinctively that he knew right away the guy was out of bounds. If you watch the play again, he immediately waves incomplete because he knew the guy was out. He knew he gave him no room.
I agree with you on that, Paul, and I'm with you. He does play the guys, and he's right on them. But when he's playing these guys like C.D. Lamb, that stuff don't work when you're just jumping in the air and not the defender the ball. Because once the ball in the air, as I always said, whose ball is it once it leaves the quarterback?
It's got to be yours. It's got to be yours.
It's got to be yours.
I agree with that.
It doesn't belong to anybody.
I agree with that.
And that's what I want to see in him. I'm not criticizing him. He can't play corner. He just can't play the ball.
I want to see him attack the ball a whole lot more than he does because he doesn't do it very often. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
Yep, we're on the same page.
But
yes, sir.
That's never really been his game, though, is the thing.
Never has been. Never has been.
I'm not saying he can't develop that, but that's not what made him a first-round pick in the draft.
What made him a first-round pick was his physicality. That's what made him a first-round pick.
And his ability just to be sticky.
Yeah, and play the run, too.
I mean, he gave up, as you mentioned, PFF has him down for...
Coach, we're going to let you go. We'll let Matt finish his point. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. PFF has Deonte Banks down for 1 reception allowed. 13 coverage snaps, 1 reception allowed. Forced incompletion, passer rating against a 46.5.
So they actually got something right.
Yeah.
Hey, good for them for a change.
But I will say, I agree with Coach Marvin that the biggest thing with Deonte Banks the first couple of years of his career is him not getting his head around. On that one play that coach was mentioning, I agree that I think Deonte just knew that he wasn't giving the receiver any space to make the play.
No,
I would
not at
like
all.
to think that that's, part of the reason why he didn't get his head around. But he did get his head around on a play earlier in the game. I remember looking on Twitter and everyone being like, oh, finally got his head around. So, look, this is a big summer for him, a big couple of weeks coming up. He's hopefully heading in the right direction. Obviously, the fact that he played the whole first half, Coach Dable said, I wanted to see him play.
Yeah.
He didn't get taken out when all the other defensive starters did. It's clearly a competition for that second cornerback spot between him and Cordell Flott. Hopefully Cordell Flott comes back. He obviously didn't play on Saturday. We don't really know anything about what's been holding him out, but hopefully he gets back onto the field soon so that competition can continue to get going.
Joshua Palmer had the catch against him, by the way.
Yeah.
That was
because Cordell Flott was playing well before whatever injury occurred, whatever happened. I don't even know what happened. I didn't even see it.
We were never told.
Yeah.
Taylor from Birmingham is on line 3. Hello, you're on BBKL.
Hey, guys. First off, I'm glad I can actually reach you guys during live. I'm actually off today since it's my daughter's 3rd birthday.
Happy birthday to her.
Nice. Thank you. I'm excited. We're going to KC game, flying up there, and then also New Orleans will be her first game in person.
Cool.
But anyways,
awesome.
My points, I really wanted to say, I think Bo should compete at first team during the preseason and joint practice if he's not already, especially if Hudson keeps committing those penalties. I think they can really hurt us. To the Turbo point, I think if we can possibly at the end of the day get a third-day pick for Singletary for the Bills or even Texans, we're having some issues. I would love to see Turbo make the roster. Robert Harrison has improved, I think, throughout preseason. I like that. I think he's a lot better than what people are saying throughout training camp, especially run stopping. And then finally, I think we need to keep 7 wide receivers. I think Jordan Humphreys and Washington, especially if Hyatt is going to be hurting a little more than what we expect throughout the preseason as well. So thank you, guys.
Thanks for the call.
Thanks, Taylor.
201-939-4513. We have a YouTube question that's also asking about an injury. He wants to know about Drew Phillips. Drew Phillips looked as though, to me, and I remember the hit, and I called it, looked like he jammed his shoulder on a play and then did not play the rest of the game. Coach did not have any details about him, just said he could not finish the game. And as I said at the top of the show, there were no injury updates from Coach yesterday, and there's no media avails today with either the players or the coach. So we don't have any injury information on anybody. So I wish we could give you something, but we don't have it. As far as Hyatt's concerned, I interviewed him on Thursday afternoon for the pregame show on radio. And he had practiced, and we sat down, we did the pregame show interview, and then all of a sudden on Friday, he's listed as having some soreness, and he's not playing in the game. So we were kind of surprised by that as well, because when I sat down with him, he was chomping at the bit to go. I mean, he knows he's got a lot to prove and needs to do so rather quickly. There's the sand in the hourglass is running thin for him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've spoken about, Coach Dable has spoken about how this is a big year for Jalen Hyatt, and looking back at Saturday, some of those guys that are fighting for spots on the roster at the wide receiver position played well. The 2 guys that Taylor mentioned, Lil Jordan Humphrey, obviously had the touchdown catch from Jackson Dart.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful throw, great catch. He played well. Montrell Washington, it wasn't a perfect outing. He had 1 or 2 drop passes, but showed what he can do when he has the ball in his hands with that the one yak play where he got close to the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
That was an amazing catch and run by him. Kind of what we've been seeing from him all summer.
And he was on specials too.
He was on specials too. I have been saying for weeks now that Montrell Washington has been one of the most impressive players to me, one of the quote-unquote camp standouts, especially the connection that he's clearly developed with Jackson Dart.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw it on Saturday. I mean, the 2 of them connect. I think Jackson was the quarterback for at least 2, if not all 3 of Montrell's.
What did he go, 3
catches.
for 80? Was that his final number?
3 for 60.
3 for 60.
And
Yeah, I knew.
at least
it was a big number
were from Jackson, if not all three.
Yeah, probably. I'll say this: Washington and Cambry are the two diminutive slot guys that you think about as typical slot-framed wide receivers. They're both on the depth chart, and they both can play special teams. So to me, if you're after a typical backup slot to Wan'Dale Robinson, those two guys would be the first two guys you'd think of. However, as we've also talked about, schematically, you don't have to have a typical small slot guy. You could also run a big slot, which your tight ends can run, or for that matter, if you've got a receiver who is experienced enough and understands how to work the position, little Jordan Humphrey could also potentially do some of that too.
100%. I mean, it helps when you have a group of wide receivers that can literally all line up at every wide receiver spot. I mean, Malik Neighbors, you don't want him to take every snap in the slot, but he's more than capable of playing out of the slot.
Well, Dallas does it with CeeDee Lamb. They move him around.
Yeah, same with Darius Slayton has shown that he's more than capable of playing in the slot. When you have multiple wide receivers, you're starting top guys that can play at any of the wide receiver positions, it obviously gives you a lot more flexibility with some of those bottom of the roster spots where you don't necessarily need your, prototypical, smaller slot guy as a backup. But again, the way that he's been playing, I do think Montrell Washington so far has put himself in a good position where he's firmly in the mix to make the 53-man roster.
Oh, he's got to be on the radar now.
Yeah.
And
again, it wasn't perfect. He did have
it was not.
At least one drop. It wasn't a perfect outing, and Coach Dable said that. But overall, he showed what he could do when you just get the ball in his hands, and that's something that obviously you would take from any wide receiver on your roster.
Everything,
and his special teams ability as well.
Yeah, it all gets graded, but the preseason games get the heaviest grade.
Yeah.
So when you make big plays in these preseason games, it's going to open some eyes and it's going to get you a little more consideration. Now you got to do something with it. We will see. If he has a horrible practice this week against the Jets, well, that's going to hurt him. If he goes out there and doesn't play well Saturday against the Jets, that's going to hurt him. It's always a what have you done for me lately thing. Every day you got to continue to prove yourself if you're on the bubble.
Oh, yeah. We know the NFL is a business.
That's it.
You got to prove yourself every day.
Martin Gennaro says Marcus Bowe was dishing out some punishment on the offensive line. There's no question about that. Rob Ford says Brian Dable said that Thomas Fidoni's leaping grab for the two-point conversion was meant for the player behind him. Yeah, he did steal that two-point conversion. You're correct. Do you think the red zone scheme needs to be adjusted slightly to compensate for Fidoni's height causing issues? Well, look, here's what I'm going to say. Number one, there's no guarantee that Fidoni makes the 53.
I was going to say, you're talking about maybe changing the scheme for a guy who might be the third tight end on the roster. I don't think that's something you got to
I think he's the fourth tight end if they keep four. I'm not so sure they're going to be able to keep four, especially if they go with four running backs.
But he did, I will say, Fidoni did.
He did well.
Other than the one pre-snap penalty, he did look good.
He had
Saturday.
one drop.
He had a drop.
He could have had that ball.
But, I mean, he showed his athleticism and his pass-catching ability with some of those grabs they made, including the two-point conversion. Whether or not it was for him, whatever, he still made the catch, and it looked impressive doing it. So that's, obviously his pass-catching abilities is something that will help him, fight for that roster spot. But as we come to learn, especially with the tight ends that are elsewhere on the roster, you got to do more than just be able to catch the ball if you're a tight end in order to make the 53.
I will
especially
say,
as a seventh-round pick.
He has done enough to be very intriguing. I understand why he was picked and was not an undrafted guy. He's got enough that he deserved to be picked. I think he is what I would call not necessarily a prospect as much as he is a project. He needs some work, okay? And he's going to have to prove a lot. Seventh-round pick, he could turn out to be incredibly valuable, especially at that selection down the road. Right now on this team, he's done enough to put himself on the radar, but I don't know if he can do enough in the next 2 weeks to get on the 53. I just don't know.
Yeah, look, we've said since the start of camp that the competition at tight end behind Theo Johnson is going to be one of the biggest ones to keep an eye out for throughout preseason and training camp. We don't really know, other than Theo Johnson, and I feel more confident now that Daniel Bellinger, the way that he's looked, will likely make the team as well.
Oh, I like that. You and John are coming around.
He's certainly played well. It was, again, about him, it was more of the contract situation than him as a player. But regardless, behind Theo Johnson, it is up for grabs. And so Fidoni's going to have to prove himself over these next we'll call it 2 weeks because cut-down day is 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Yeah.
The next 2 weeks, and especially the next 2 days of joint practices and then the preseason games, especially that third preseason game when obviously you would expect not too many starters to probably play, at least not that much. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a chance for those bubble guys to really get an expanded opportunity. That is going to be his time to really show the coaching staff what he can do.
Exactly why I still love the preseason, because I'm always interested in the bubble guys. Most people don't care. I do. Omnipotent Media says, I love this team, lots of fun, and the energy is off the charts. Good vibes for the team. I think we would all agree. Jimmy Rocca says, curious when this show started. I feel like I remember discovering it during the 2011 Super Bowl run season. Been listening and watching ever since. Jimmy, I'll be honest, I think we started before that, but I can't truly remember the start date. Joseph Cutson says ball security was an issue for Tyrone Tracy last year and had a close one in Buffalo. 2 questions. Is this something that can be coached? Absolutely it can. Joe Morris, when he first came out of Syracuse, had a ball security issue. They fixed it.
What about Tiki?
Tiki Barber later on
big one.
had a ball security issue. They fixed it. So yes, it can be coached. Number 2, what do we know about Scadaboo and fumbling in college? He did have some ball security issues in college. That was the one blemish on his record that you could not necessarily ignore. There were times that he did not hold on to the ball as well as you would like. Now, to this point, because he's been limited on the practice field by a sore leg, the truth of the matter is, we haven't seen anything that would resemble ball security issues because he hasn't been involved in a contact practice where he's been hit. I think he was in 1 thud practice, maybe 2. Was it 2?
I think
maybe?
he might have. The practice where he really stood out, I think might have been the first padded practice.
Which was a thud.
Yeah. And then I don't think he's done a lot since then.
So honestly, at this point, there's no way for us to either prove or disprove ball security issues because there hasn't been a real tackling situation for him to show us that he's either got that fixed or that it is a problem.
Yeah, but in terms of, the potential concern overall about both of those guys in fumbling, I know you mentioned Tiki, but let's not forget, Tiki Barber was obviously a fantastic running back, but he could not hold on to the football for years. And then it was one off season where he really had a focus on his ball security, and all of a sudden he never fumbled the ball. And this was halfway through his career, a couple years into his career. Obviously, Tyrone Tracy only going into year 2, Cam Scadaboo going into his rookie year. There's plenty of time to fix those issues for them, where hopefully not too far down the road, we won't be talking about it being an issue at all for the 2 of those young backs.
Well, basically, Tom Coughlin challenged him.
And it worked.
And told him, you don't hold on to the ball, you're not getting as many touches as you think you are.
And it worked.
And him and Gerald Ingram, the running backs coach, came up with that whole thing, high and tight, high and tight. Look at it.
Paid off for sure.
3 phenomenal seasons, back to back to back. 3 of the best consecutive seasons that any running back in this league has ever had, to be honest. That 3-year grouping, you can match it up with almost any back who's ever played. The Marshall Faulks of the world, too, where, his all-purpose yardage, his percentage of the offense, that was about as potent as you could possibly get. I truly believe with Tiki that if he had played 1 more year, because he had another 1,000-yard season left in him.
Oh, yeah.
If he had played 1 more year, there would not even be a doubt of him being on the cusp of the Hall of Fame. He'd be in. He'd be an automatic vote.
And just to give you guys quickly some stats behind these fumbling things that we're talking about, from 2000 to 2003, those 4 seasons, Tiki had 9 fumbles, 8 fumbles, 9 fumbles, 9 fumbles.
It's horrific.
So then going into his final 3 years, so going into the 2004 season, the next 3 seasons, the last 3 seasons of his career, he had 9 fumbles total.
Mm-hmm.
And in each of those 3 seasons, had no fewer than 1,500 yards rushing alone. all 3 seasons with over 2,000 yards total from scrimmage.
Well, just mention the touches because that includes receptions too.
Yeah.
Look at the touches he had.
In 2004, 374 touches for just about 2,100 yards. Next year, led the league with 411 touches, led the league nearly 2,400 yards from scrimmage. Finally, 385 touches, little over 2,100 yards from scrimmage.
They fixed it.
They fixed it.
It
Again,
was that simple.
3 of the 4 in the 4 seasons leading up to it had no fewer than 8 fumbles, with 3 seasons of 9 fumbles. The last 3 seasons, 9 fumbles total. So yes, to answer your question, the fumble concerns, that is something that can be coached and fixed.
One more call, and we'll squeeze him in. Abdul from Minneapolis is on line 1.
Guys.
Hello.
What's up? So, sometimes you have players who are gamers and sometimes who don't practice well, and they show up game day and they play like, just a bull in a china shop. And it looks like that we have a guy like that in Roy Robertson Harrison, I think that's his name. He and also J.D. Davidson. I've been worried about the defensive line play because I've not been hearing a lot of good things during practice. And they showed up yesterday. It was Saturday.
Yep.
And they both played extremely well, violently, energetically, and they made me a little more comfortable, at least on the pass rush. I'm still, I'm still not convinced that we have a strong run defense, especially with all the missed tackles we had. But that's a different conversation.
Dexter Lawrence did not play in the game.
Right,
please
Dexter
notice
Lawrence
that
cannot be on the field all the time.
I know.
Okay?
I know.
So I know people always say Dexter Lawrence, but there's more. There's 10 other players.
Yep,
that are on the field.
That's true.
That show up too. We can't always just rely on Dexter Lawrence. But what happens if he gets hurt? God forbid.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
So anyway, so I'm glad that Roy Robertson Harrison put some good tape on this weekend. I'm getting not worried, but I think the Darius Alexander. I think we need to kind of mellow out in our expectations. He's a rookie. He played at Toledo. I think he's having some growing pains, which is okay. Dexter Lawrence had growing pains when he first came out. So, but I think we need to temper our expectation with that young man. I think he'll be okay, but I don't think he'll be that impactful. At least not.
Well, his pass rush is certainly further along than his run stopping right now. There's no doubt about that.
Sure. So we've been talking about Turbo Miller and Fedoni and trying to see who will make the 53. I was wondering if we want to keep 4 tight ends and 4 running backs, could we maybe borrow that from the wide receiver grouping? Because there are a lot of good receivers. The only reason I might say no is because depth chart receivers are usually also special team coverage guys, and I'm not sure if tight ends play coverage on special teams. So, but I think. You think they could do that? They could maybe keep 1 less receiver this year and keep 4 tight ends and 4 backs. I think Filoni, the guy from Nebraska, I don't think he'll make it through waivers if he's cut. And I couldn't see him going through the practice squad. And I think he has potential. And same thing with Turbo Miller. So I was wondering if you think we could maybe keep 1 less receiver and keep 4 tight ends and 4.
A lot will be determined by who gets banged up over the next couple of weeks.
Of course.
Because, for example, right now, if Andrew Thomas does not make it back for week 1, you have to keep an extra offensive lineman.
Yep.
You just have to. So
and thank God for Bo, right?
Well, I mean, here's what I will tell you. And there's no doubt that this is part of the equation. Whether you're going to be the last tight end, the last receiver, or the last running back on the depth chart. This is where the Rubik's Cube gets a bit more complex because you're not just fighting the guys in your position room. You're also fighting for guys in the other position rooms who are on the back end of the depth chart who are going to either play special teams or not give you anything on special teams. So, yes, I think the backup tight ends, the backup receivers, and the backup running backs are also fighting each other. I don't think enough of people realize that, but that's part of this deal.
Yeah, Dable straight up said it when talking to the media yesterday, or maybe it was after the game, that in terms of Dante Miller's roster spot, he said he's not just fighting the running backs, he's fighting all those guys vying for the special team spots.
It's
one thing, guys. It's good that we're having this discussion because usually we're hoping to get waiver pickups. This year, I'm not really too concerned about the waiver pickups. I think we have a lot of talent on this team, and I think that's a good place to be. It's refreshing. On that note, guys, I'll see you guys next week.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that'll do it.
I just want to touch on one thing you said. The Roy Robertson Harris.
Played real well.
Because I've been seeing this on social media.
Before you go, I'm just going to say, folks, the handcuffs were off on the trenches. Both your offensive linemen and your defensive linemen on Saturday had the chance to go full go without pulling up and worrying about a thud practice or without being an offensive lineman that had to have his hands tied that he couldn't block anybody. You now saw real trenches for the first time all summer. Keep that in mind. That's why Robertson Harris, that's why Bo, they were allowed to use their full toolbox for the first time all summer, and they showed up.
Yeah,
go.
100%. I mean, if you're just going based off of what, some reporters are saying they saw at practice, I mean, they haven't been talking about any of the interior defensive linemen because during these practices, everything you just mentioned, there's not much they can really do. They're not going full throttle against their teammates. They're not sacking the quarterback. Roy Robertson Harris, I wrote about this for the 25 questions in 25 days leading into training camp over a month ago, that I thought he was the most underrated addition the Giants made this offseason. And then I think that was after I heard Coach Patterson talking about him while doing a one-on-one interview with one of the beat reporters saying there is so much potential that has not been fully reached yet in this guy's career because of his previous coaching. I think I'm going to be able to tap into that, and we are going to see the best version of Roy Robertson Harris that we've ever seen. Well, if Saturday was any indication of what is to come, I think Coach Patterson was telling the truth because he looked dominant out there. I don't care what anyone is saying about how he's done at practice. As we've said, it matters more what you're doing in the games, especially if you're a longtime veteran like he is. And he showed that he could have a big impact on the defense this year.
If you don't believe us when we talk about the dynamic of what a thud practice is or what a shells practice is, go back to look at the media availed by Brian Burns last week when he said he couldn't wait to get into a preseason game because it was very hard to go into a practice knowing you couldn't tackle and you couldn't hit anybody and you had to do a thud because you couldn't follow through and take the guy to the ground. He's like, you don't understand how difficult that is, how much it hurts you as a defensive player who, when you get that snap of the ball, your instincts say, go run through that guy, go tackle, go do it. Defensive players want to play the play in full. They can't do it during these training camp practices. Listen to Brian Burns if you don't believe us.
Yeah, we saw him do it, and he almost got hurt on that crazy collision with Wandell.
Yeah, exactly. That'll do it for today's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Giants, from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. We will be back tomorrow, 2 o'clock, live right here on Giants.com, the Giants app, the Giants YouTube channel, with the review of the first dual practice at Florham Park between the Giants and the Jets. It ought to be fun, and we hope to see you then. For Matt Citak, I'm Paul Dottino. We'll check in with you next time.